Ajde. Nemam. A ne bih htio da kasnimo ljudima.
Ne, dobro, bez panike.
Možda najbolje tak. Great. It seems like it's working. Sorry for a little bit of delay. We had some technical difficulties. It was lunch, so I guess also computers wanted to take a little bit of break after lunch. But in case you want to take it, feel free to sit back, relax, enjoy, maybe a little bit snooze. No one will judge you here, okay? I'll make sure of that. Okay, let's start. So, hi everyone, I'm Tomislav, and today I'll talk about lessons that I've learned when building a digital agency. I'll speak from my personal experience, and hopefully this will be an interesting topic and you'll find something interesting and valuable. So a little bit about me. I started my career as a software developer, and I didn't have any formal business education. So I had to do a lot of digging and researching on my own. And every lesson I'll present here today is kind of a result of that. After software development, I switched to product management. And 7 years ago, with the help of two friends, we founded our own gig called Speck. Speck is a web and mobile agency that focuses on building digital products. We work mostly with American clients, and we employ over 50 people from the Balkan region. So, what are the lessons I've learned when building such a company? So I divided lessons into 3 phases that we've gone through when building a company. First phase is founding it, second, building it, and third, scaling. But let's start with founding. It's easy to set up a legal entity, right? That's not the hard part. But how do you get it all up and running? So, as I mentioned, we founded Speck, 3 friends founded Speck, when we worked on a side project next to our full-time job. Speck was founded by Sinisha, our designer, and the other 2, Luka and me, were quite close friends, childhood friends, having played a piano together. Actually, this is a photo of us of a piano competition. Our duo was famously called Snjegulica and Crvenkapica, because of the colors of our cheeks. I'm not sure if you can see it here. And we were quite good at it. We were country champions a couple of times. But anyways, back to the story. So the 3 of us, Sinisha, Luka, and me, were building learning management system for driving schools in Croatia, called Autoškola HR. It's basically a web and mobile app filled with education materials, homeworks, exams, chat with instructors and students. And basically we needed a company to start selling the product. So as we were getting close to be finished with our MVP, we started thinking our business model. We analyzed how much expenses we would have if we were to quit our jobs, how much we would need to pay ourselves, what would be the compensations, equipments, tools, and all sorts of these costs. And we came to a price of 1,000 euros, an average subscription model for a driving school in Croatia. And we thought, it's a fair price, come on, it's a great deal. But we didn't do thorough research to understand even expenses of a driving school, how much profit they have per candidate, because that's how they earn money, or how much they usually pay similar tools. Long story short, this didn't work at all. At the time, I was able to sell 2 subscriptions for 2 driving schools for largely discounted price over the course of a couple of months and earned a total of 2,000 euros. Of course, working on a side project for 2 years definitely had an impact on my private life as well. At the time of the MVP launch, I've been together with my partner for 5 years. We moved together to be able to spend more time, but I was really focused on releasing this project. And soon after, she got an amazing opportunity to go to Prague and to work from there, so she moved. And unfortunately, with both of us being focused on our careers, sadly, our relationship didn't go anywhere and we split up. And looking back, I really didn't think that this could happen. And it was so obvious, that this will happen. But luckily, after a couple of months, we managed to reprioritize our priorities and learned that this is actually more important for us. And now we are married with 2 kids. she will hate me for this, but she's there and recording. Anyways, but yeah, it was a tough time, My first business endeavor failed. My really long-lasting relationship failed. So I was thinking what to do. I decided to fully focus on my full-time job. And I was working 12 hours a day. And I really was enjoying it. It was a period that lasted for like a year. And I was working as a product manager for one startup in Croatia. But for some reason, I kept coming back to the idea of starting my own business. And I even didn't know why. I guess maybe I just wanted to test my own limits. So I managed to get some savings, to put away some money, and to get enough savings to live 4 months without any job. And I resigned. My manager at the time, Davor, who was actually a speaker at this conference, at the design track after this conversation, after this talk, asked me what was my plan. And I didn't have any idea. I called my mother and I told her, I'm starting my own business. And she flipped out. She had a point. She was begging me to call my boss and ask him to get my job back. But I knew that she would react like that, so I only called her after I signed the papers and everything. It was a little bit scary, don't get me wrong, but also it was a very powerful moment for me because for the first time in my life, I felt like I'm the one controlling it. I was always ready to take a risk, a calculated one. And this was my calculation. I was willing to work hard, I was young, I had enough savings, I didn't start my own family, and I wanted to test my limits. And okay, I know that I mentioned that I didn't have any idea, but I had a rough idea and a backup plan. I would either use my product management knowledge to try to scale our startup, or I would offer my knowledge as a contractor on the market. And that's it. I called up Luka, the guy who I was building driving school with, because I knew that, as I did, he didn't look too seriously on life and would be probably crazy enough to say yes to join me. So both of us started this, and I felt like I really needed a co-founder, although I was ready to do it alone, because we would present ourselves as a team. Sure, 2 people, but a team. So we started testing our first idea, basically trying to see how much money driving schools would pay this time. But this time I used my product management knowledge to better understand the customers and how much they're willing to pay, and came to the price of 30 to 50 euros for a subscription model for driving school. Notice, this is 20 times less for what I considered to be a fair price, right? Simultaneously to testing the first idea, we started testing the backup plan. So I reached out my network and I got connected to the CTO of Combis, who needed a team of developers. And 2 months into testing our contractual obligations to Combis and our ability to sell our startup, I managed to sell 25 driving schools, generating around 1,000 euros monthly recurring revenue. And I soon discovered that going the agency route would be a much safer bet for us. And I even went back to programming, because that way we could charge for 2 programmers, right? So that's when we decided, okay, we will be an agency, and that's how we started our business. And the final piece to the founding puzzle was to build a brand. Because from the beginning, we knew we wanted to scale the company. And if we were to do that, we needed a brand. We were thinking a little bit, and we really liked this word Speck. Speck as a small particle, speck as in distant planet. It was short, it was memorable, there was no globally recognizable Speck brand, and there is even a great article written by Carl Sagan where he uses the word speck to describe Earth in the most distant picture ever taken from Earth. You know, that's here, that's us, that's Speck. It sounded great. But what we didn't think about is this guy. And we really, didn't think about Speck. I don't know how it didn't come to us. Hey, you're from Croatia, everyone will associate you as a Speck. Or in Germany, they write Speck as Speck. So, we didn't know what to think about it when first people started calling us Speck, but, we didn't care. We embraced it. Basically, this is from our first conference. It looks, it's totally our style. Just don't over-engineer it. And that's basically how we founded the company. I invested a little bit more time to go through this story because this is the question I get the most. How do you start something? This was a mess, but this is how we started, really. So we tried and failed a lot. We invested heavily in our work ethics, in our knowledge. We were prepared financially, at least, with 4 months of savings, that's something, and with a backup plan, but we didn't overthink it. And I was fighting to find working and manageable work-life balance, and I still am today, so this is not something I learned. And I finally took the risk. These were the lessons that we learned when founding a company. Great. Now we have a company. So now what? Now we need to build it, right? So 2 months into our business adventure, we decided to go to the agency route. The first project that we got was from Combis, where we were building free cloud apps. Doesn't matter, infrastructure as a service. Luca and I knew we needed to divide our responsibilities to know who will take what in building the company. So Luca was focused on the development, and I became jack of all trades. I was also programming 8 hours regularly on day because we needed to charge 2 people, right? And after work, I would be focused on the marketing, managing our website, our social media, and answering, these comments of Speck on social media. I know we are Speck, what are you saying? On sales, negotiating with our current clients and looking for new opportunities, finance management, accounting and invoicing, HR, trying to find new people, and of course, CEO responsibilities, trying to think of what we would like to do with the company in future. If we were to succeed, I knew I needed to delegate my workload. And it all started by me being able to sell 2 more developers on the project and taking more like a project management role. With more work came more money. So I was in charge of handling that money. And I'm a very conservative person in that regards. So I came back with living to my parents, so I don't need to pay the rent. I was paying some money to them. Both Luca and me took a huge cut in our salaries from our previous jobs and were living for like 800 euros a net salary over the months. And basically this allowed us to soon reach financial stability and independence from anything that can happen on the project. And this was really important for us because remember, we didn't have any prior investment, only a little bit of savings. As more people started coming to the team as well, I needed to work on the compensation levels. Unfortunately, there too, I was a little bit too conservative. I believe that if Luca and I could live off of small salary to build a company, so should others. And I was totally wrong. After all, we were founders in charge of the profit. Of course, we weren't paying the profit. We wanted to reach the financial stability, but who cares about that? So yeah, my approach to compensation levels wasn't the best. And this is a screenshot of a translated thread from Crow IT subreddit. It's in Croatian, you can find it. We blurred who wrote it. But unfortunately, it's true. And I don't, try to run away from that. And I'm very, nothing I'm proud of it. But not for years, but we did underpay our first employees. Lesson I needed to learn the hard way. But luckily, I was believing in having a great culture. And what that meant for us as a small team is frequent communications. Basically, communicating with people was how we built the culture at the beginning. So I didn't wait for people to approach me with their issues, but I was very proactive, asking, what are we doing wrong? What can we do better? Obviously, as you've seen in the previous comment, we didn't manage to satisfy everyone's expectations. But I think that most of the employees recognize my genuine efforts. So yeah, as with building the culture, I needed to build my role too. So I kept reinventing it. I soon discovered I know so little about many areas I needed to know about if I were to speak with the decision makers that were our clients. I didn't know about design. I still needed to work on my product knowledge, development knowledge, marketing, sales. And since it was mostly fundamentals that I missed, I found these books and many others as the best education material to learn about, what I'm missing, basically. I read a lot. Same with my role that kept constantly changing, our processes in the company needed a constant update. And honestly, most of the processes I set up in the company were really straightforward. So I don't feel a value in talking about them. But there is one thing that I would like to point out that I find very interesting. And that's that what I understood is that when building a particular process, you need to have a good understanding of what that process might look like in the future, but not to over-engineer it and only to solve the current need in the company. That allowed us to move fast, to a little bit break things sometimes, but still to be well enough organized. In Speck, we call them good enough processes. Fun fact, I read about this in a book that has nothing to do with business. In fact, it's a book about parenting. As I was becoming a father, I wanted to know how to be a better parent, and the concept was called good enough parenting. So my responsibility was also changing with the company, and I obviously wanted us to reach the future using the present state. We didn't have what Infinum had, or these great companies. So we needed to fight with a lot of these bastards on the market to compete for the talent. Obviously, we don't compete for the clients. It's such a big market. But I needed to think, in terms of what we can do. So I believed that up until 50 people in the company, main responsibility of CEO is to make sure we have top-notch quality. I know it sounds like no-brainer, but it wasn't for us. Our main proposition value was to over-deliver. And what I mean by that is to truly exceed expectations. So if we were hired to build a website, we would do everything we can to make sure that on launch, there are no issues with the website. Because there are usually some issues, always a little bit stays. If we were hired to build a mobile app and we estimated we will need for a certain feature or the whole mobile app, let's say 2 months, We did everything in our power to do it in less time for less money. Because that's something that clients didn't expect. Why would we charge less if we agreed for initial, price? But this is basically how we started with the quality. So those were the lessons that we learned when building a company. We needed to divide our responsibilities. I took the ownership of building the company. I started to work on good enough processes and culture. I continuously embraced reinventing my role. There is no routine for a CEO that you can count on. And finally, I believed our main value to be to over-deliver. And final phase of lessons that I would like to speak about, a group of lessons, is how to scale a company. And quite frankly, this is something that I'm still learning a lot. So I don't feel it's completely my position to lecture anyone about it, but I learned 2 lessons that I would like to share. First is company culture, and second is marketing and sales. Both 2 really important things for scaling a company. So once you reach 50 plus people in the company, that's where real maturity for the company starts. You're no longer directly involved with any project and thus have no direct control over quality. And remember, I really believe that we should focus on quality. So how do you do that? You need to have a strong leadership that will 100% be in sync with you in terms of your vision of quality. And the only way to achieve this is culture. So what do I mean when I say culture? So obviously, we needed to hire people. And these people would work basically 1/3 of their life together and depend on each other. So we wanted to make sure that quality that they'll produce will be, a joint result of their work together. So we established core values that we examined at every interview to make sure these people will share the same values and thus kind of also create a culture within the company. We focused on people who are honest, who are humble, and who are hungry, wanting to achieve more. Basically 3 H's: honest, humble, hungry. Just to remember, easier. But it's no bullshit framework. We really believed in that, and we examined those traits and see how those people would work with us in the company. Finally, also, we needed to establish communication platforms to make sure when we hire these people that we actually did a good job, that we brought good people and they fit into the team. So we were really rigorous when setting, performance reviews, monthly check-ins, bi-weekly check-ins, company-wide meetings like all hands, team buildings, team gatherings. That's where you see how your team is working together, because you can't no longer work with everyone within the team. And finally, when building a management team, we made sure to choose people who we believed that can pass on our culture to other people, who can embrace these communication platforms, and who can take 100% ownership of their delivery of their teams. So it's no one's fault. It's the manager's fault if something doesn't work, right? So these are the 3 things we noticed that are really key to building a great culture, at least at our state of the company. And second thing, what we found also to be important is kind of a no-brainer. If you want to scale the company, you need to have strong marketing and sales. You need to know who your customers are, what's your value proposition, how to make the price model and all that. And I learned all about these topics in a really good book that's called Buyer Persona by Adele Ravella. It's really a great book, and I would recommend everyone who didn't and who is interested in these topics to read it. Yeah, you know, you can set up marketing and sales in various different ways, so I won't go into that. But what I wanted to share here, now I lost my train of thought, is yeah, I really don't know what I wanted to share. I'll be honest. Thanks for the clapping, but it didn't help. It didn't come. But yeah, basically, you know, you needed to have very strong marketing and sales to. Oh, I remember now. Great. You need to have really strong marketing and sales, and basically, how we did it is we found out that the hardest challenge for us is finding first projects, and it came down to the quality. That was really a good bet that we did. First project, and I would like to share with you how we got first project, because that's what everyone literally asks. How do you start? How do you get your first projects? So first projects we got from CTO of Combis. We worked for Combis. Second project we got from my friend who was a developer contractor for one startup, and they told him that they need team. He pinged me and we got inside. Third project we got from a development meetup where we met with some leaders, and we also heard that they need something, and they heard us spoke at that meetup and they liked us. So that's how we got also together with them. Fourth project we got also as a developer contractor from a friend. So basically we only use network, right? And we only rely on word of mouth. And those were the fundamentals that I wanted to share with you that I've learned over the course of the last 7 years. Obviously, there are many more situations that happened and that I think that are interesting to share. Like at one point, we had 1 million people that people owed us. And you know, how do you manage with that? There was really some tough negotiation periods with American clients who often don't choose words. It's a double-edged sword, building a company with a friend. It's not always easy. It's not playing a piano, you know, and then someone is not into playing piano. Let's go to a burger. How we adapted our business during COVID times. How we survived key people leaving from Speck. Or how we kept the value of our money in high inflation times such as this. But I hope you found something valuable in these fundamental lessons, and if you did, feel free to catch me on the conference and speak. I can go deeper into all these topics. Or if you want to read more about this presentation in form of a blog, feel free to visit my Substack. Anyways, that's all.